business. So Dylan, come on in.
Hello.
Hi, buddy.
How are you? Long time no see.
Yes. You know, the freaky thing is you look exactly the same like you did 4 years ago.
I could say the same thing about you.
Okay, so to everyone else who's wondering what's going on, Dylan and I have actually known each other since kindergarten. So that's about
It's a very long time.
24 years, I'm assuming. But yeah,
Probably.
we've been friends for 24 years. I think that deserves like a virtual high five.
Here we go. There we go.
All right, so Dylan, you're going to be talking about Split now. For those of you who are also wondering, Dylan is the co-founder and CEO of Split. So would you like to set up your screen?
Sure, I will. But before that, can I just hear from everyone? Can everyone in the audience hear me clearly? If you can you just chat and say yes, loud and clear?
Well, I can definitely hear you. That's the thing. So I think they should be able to.
Okay, yes, I can see it. Yes. Great. Yeah, okay, let me share my screen. Cool. Can all of you see my screen? Once you can see it, just let me know.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm going to make this a very interactive session. So what this means is that at any point, you can stop and write something in the Q&A. And Laureen, if you see any of the questions, just stop me where I am and just ask me that question right there, and I will answer it right there and then. So yeah, at the same time, when I say it's really interactive, I will stop halfway and ask all of you questions sometimes. I might ask for a one-word answer to get a sort of a sense of who the audience is. So let's give that an example. Let's give that a go right now. If you are a e-commerce store owner and you have your own website, type O for own. If you are selling on a marketplace, type M. And if you're on neither, type N for Nigeria. So I get an idea of who you are. Okay, I think you can see some of okay, but it's okay. Let's go on. So I will also try to make this quite lighthearted at any point, even though, and for example, I might make some jokes along the way, but I know I can't hear any of you laugh, so I pretend all of you will be laughing. So I'm gonna introduce myself first. Who the heck am I? So I am Dylan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Split. Split allows businesses to offer their customers the choice of paying in installments without the worry of the cash flow because they get the full amount upfront from Split. Most of you probably won't recognize me or my company, but if you've been in the e-commerce space for a very long time, yeah, you won't recognize me as well. To be honest to you, I'm quite new to the e-commerce space. I spent my entire career in the travel industry. I used to work at a company called Skyscanner, you know, the airline and travel website. For those of you who don't know, travel used to be that thing that we could do maybe last year where we leave our country and go to another country without getting swabbed or sprayed with disinfectant. So I started this company 2 years ago that now allows businesses to offer installment payments to their customers. So first of all, let's start with a definition of shop now, pay later. Because my topic for today is shop now, pay later, winning without unsustainable discounts. I think it's fairly clear what that means. Shop now, pay later means enabling customers to pay in installments instead of paying for the full purchase amount upfront, usually interest-free. What this means is that on your website or your point of sale, wherever you're selling, instead of letting the customer pay for everything upfront in full, you accept installment payments, which is partial payment today and then the rest of the payments over time. So you can do that yourself, you can work with a bank, you can work with a pay later company. There are numerous ways to do it. But there's just really a kind of a different way for you to let your customers check out. So let's take a step back here. Let's go outside from Singapore. Let's go around the world. So this was from the top of my head, different companies around the world that were offering installment payments. If any of you recognize any of these brands that I've listed out here, could you just write the first letter of that company in the chat so I kind of get an idea of whether you guys know these companies? Okay, I can't really see what you guys are typing when I'm presenting, so I'll just assume that you wrote something over there. So these are companies around the world. Installment payments are really popular. I think some of you might have heard of Afterpay in Australia that allows people to shop and pay for their purchases in interest-free installments. If you're in the US, you've probably heard of a company called Affirm. And if you're in Europe somewhere, you've heard of a company called Klarna. Yep, so it's really popular around the world. So why do people use installments and why do businesses use installments? I think the key thing about the problem is that it solves. If you run an e-commerce business or any sort of business selling stuff online or offline, you will know that people typically come and window shop and abandon their cart. Some stats say at least 7 out of 10 people abandon their shopping cart. I think most of you who run businesses will know that the number is way more than that. To give you an idea, when I used to work in the travel industry, if 100 people landed onto a website and 5 people bought a flight ticket, that was great. That was how bad the problem was. So how exactly do installments solve this problem? When you offer installments to a customer, you typically get customers who would have made a purchase that they otherwise would not have purchased. So some stats that I pulled out from a report say that 44% of pay later customers, these are customers that use installments, would not have made their purchase if there was no pay later option. And typically customers spend up to 55% more when you offer installments. I'm serious, yeah. And it's true, we see that with Split as well. When companies are offering Split to their customers, they tend to see an increase in these key metrics. And if you're running an e-commerce business, these are really important metrics, conversion and average order value. So I'll give you an example. This is a case study of a company called Tradesy. It's a peer-to-peer luxury accessories platform selling luxury accessories, and they partner with Affirm. And so Affirm is a company that provides financing at your checkout or point of sale for this website. They noticed that shoppers who used Affirm spent more than 100% more on average order value versus a non-Affirm customer. And in addition to boosting the AOV, the average order value, Affirm customers tend to come back 15% higher than non-Affirm customers. So I think from these past few slides, I kind of explained how useful installments are. And if you're not really convinced yet, let's talk about what happened over the past few months and how that sort of accelerated the need for installment payments. So a year ago, if I show you this picture, it probably looks like a rotten Ferrero Rocher or something. But we all know, so the pandemic over the past few months has really ruined things for a lot of businesses. And I think one sort of insight we've learned from this, it gave us a very uncertain economy, and it accelerated the need for a more convenient way for consumers to shop and pay. Now, what does this mean? An uncertain economy means that consumers become more thrifty. If you're in Singapore and Malaysia, this word also means kedekut or kiam siap, where you're more budget conscious, you're more mindful of where your money is spent. You want to make sure that you have enough money for the next month. Who knows, your source of income might stop in the next few months. So you're a bit more budget conscious. But if you're a business, the only way to help you gain your incremental revenue right now is really just to offer unsustainable discounts. Back to my title. So the more you offer unsustainable discounts, the riskier it is for your company, because it's really just a price game to the bottom, and you race to the bottom with your competitors. At the end of the day, nobody wins. So what I'm trying to say for the core of my presentation over here, totally unbiased, is that you should stop with the unsustainable discounting. Seriously. At the end of the day, consumers lose, you lose as well. To give you an idea, the first few months of this year was a record number of businesses in Singapore that were forced to close down because of the pandemic. And it's really sad. It's really sad for these businesses. Ideally, I wouldn't want any of you to have to close down as well. So one alternative that I can propose is, yep, you guessed it, offer installments instead. So how do you actually do that in Singapore? Right now, the most common way that you can do it is that you partner with banks. This means that I'm sure a lot of you have seen the bank promotions like DBS or OCBC, where you get your interest-free IPP, but you need a credit card. So I will put an asterisk over there, and there are a lot of T&Cs that apply if you want to partner with a bank. I've listed down a few, and I will read through them very quickly. If you want to offer installments to your customers, you can only do it for credit card holders, and a majority of people don't own credit cards. So you need to partner with a specific bank, so that specific bank's customers, credit card holders can pay you. But that means you need to build individual relationships with all the banks, DBS, OCBC, Citibank, etc., which can be quite costly. A lot of these banks ask for security deposits or some kind of annual fee or maintenance fee. And if you're going to manage multiple bank relationships, it gets expensive very fast. The next thing is that you try to integrate them into your e-commerce website. It's kind of tricky, and it's really not easy. I haven't seen many of our partners successfully do that before. That's another huge challenge. Some banks also typically ask for a minimum spend before that credit card can be used for their installment plan. And I think an annoying thing is if you have a credit limit of maybe $2,000 and you're buying something for $2,000, it essentially blocks off your entire credit limit and you can't use your credit card. So is it really financing when you can't actually use your credit card for anything else? And I think for those of you who are really points and miles fans of your credit card, you kind of lose a lot of your points and miles benefits if you choose to use your credit card to pay in interest-free installments. Seriously, check your T&Cs. So what's your alternative to do that? How else can I offer installment payments? Well, actually, you can actually do it yourself. What you can do is you build sort of a monthly subscription model. Think of it as a SaaS, software as a service, where you get a monthly recurring fee, but instead you can use that to sell a product. So if you're selling, say, clothes, you could build out a subscription for a t-shirt until it's fully paid off. For example, if a t-shirt is $240, you can build a subscription model that allows people to pay you $80 a month until it's fully paid off. You can also manually take the payments every month, ask someone to pay now you, or manually bank transfer it to you, or PayPal it to you. But I think the key concerns there is that now you have the issue of cash flow. You don't get that money up front. And if someone chooses not to pay you back, you're kind of short of the money that they owe you. And it's also kind of risky, right? If you're going to do it to strangers, like it could be a fraudulent transaction or something. So I really won't recommend it unless you really know your customers and trust your customers, and cash flow isn't an issue. For most businesses, cash flow is really important. So, which brings me to my last point, or you can work with a pay later company. There are so many around the world you can use, and there are a handful in Singapore. And I will try and share with you and tell you a bit more about what it's like to work with a pay later company. And at any point, stop me, ask me a question. Lauren, please, if somebody asks me a question, just stop me because I can't see the Q&A while presenting. Okay, how do these...
I got you. So far, we have no questions yet, but for you guys who are watching, if you have any questions, go right ahead and leave them in the Q&A box and we'll ask them in due course. I'll be checking, so don't worry.
Cool. So how do pay later companies typically work? Okay, imagine you run a business right now. So, you have your own website and you're selling stuff online. Maybe it's on Easy Store, maybe it's on Shopify or WooCommerce. You would allow your customers to check out with installment payments, and these are usually interest-free. And the great thing about it is that your customers don't need a credit card. Remember I talked about connecting with the individual banks? You don't have to do that because if you partner with a pay later company, it's open to all banks, all cardholders. Debit cards from all banks also work, so you only need to have one connection to have coverage for installments for all your customers. That's the great thing. The second one is that these pay later companies will settle the full purchase amount with you. So you don't have to worry about that cash flow where customers would, there could be a risk of someone not paying you back or a fraudulent transaction. There's really no risk because you get that money up front. The third thing is instant noodles. I mean, instant integration. You know, when I talked about banks integrations, they typically could take up to 6 months. And legit, some of our partners that we work with at Split have taken up to 6 months to get approval from the bank just to integrate at the POS or online. So the great thing about pay later companies, we are typically tech companies and we allow integration. On average for Split, someone who wants to integrate Split takes about 15 minutes max. It works on all major e-commerce platforms. Typically, pay later companies work on your major e-commerce platforms that you're using. We also don't have those expensive deposits, setup fees, annual charges. It's literally, you just connect it and then you can use it. And I know some of you are kind of thinking, it sounds kind of too good to be true, right? So what's really the catch in this case of working with a pay later company? Well, the catch is that you have to pay the pay later company a successful transaction fee. So every time someone uses your pay later service on your website, you pay the pay later company transaction fee. It's also not available on marketplaces. If you're selling on, say, Shopee or Lazada, they do have the credit card installment options available. But as of right now, I believe that no pay later companies work on the marketplaces. But there may be some exceptions. But yeah, so I guess the other thing, Lauren,
we actually have a question now.
Okay,
so
cool, let's go.
From Diana Tan now. Diana's asking, how much effort does it take to integrate your system?
Oh, okay. So if you look at the last slide here, the third point, it's really an instant integration. It depends on what platform you're using. Our WooCommerce or WordPress partners take about 5 minutes to integrate. Shopify also takes about a similar time. But if you've built your own website to sell stuff, it really depends on how fast you can integrate based on our API documentation. Typically, it takes a couple of days. But on average, most of our partners integrate within 15 minutes. And that would be the same across different pay later companies. We want to make it as convenient as possible for you to add our service to your website.
Okay, we've got one more from the comments. Now, this one is from Kainis too. Now, Kainis is wondering, can my WooCommerce store work with Split?
Yes, your WooCommerce store absolutely can work with Split. We have a lot of WooCommerce partners, and what we've done is we've built a WooCommerce Split plugin. Once you've been accepted as a Split partner, we would send you a WooCommerce Split plugin that you just install, and typically that takes about 5 minutes. So there's really no tech integration required. So if you're using WooCommerce, it's super easy to use Split. Good choice.
Okay. So we've got 2 more questions that just came in. Guys, keep them coming. This one is, let me see. All right, there we go. What are the demographics of consumers who use installments for payment? Are there specific categories of products?
Yeah, so I think the most popular categories that are using Split would say fashion. I think we have a lot of fashion labels that are using Split. We have electronics. I think people like to, I think in the past few months when you're really stuck at home, right, you have nothing else to do. You buy a Nintendo Switch or you buy a new phone. So that really spiked in the past few months for us. We also see people buying luxury accessories. I guess you're preparing your wardrobe for when you finally can get out of the house after this circuit breaker. I guess the other thing we've also seen that has a really high take-up is mother care products. So typically products that mothers or fathers would buy for their kids, babies usually. So that was another popular category that I never expected would grow recently. Okay. And our typical demographics, yes, I missed that. Yeah. Most of the people who are using Split are typically white-collar office professionals, anywhere between the age of 18 to say 35. There are exceptions, of course. I would say nearly 80 to 90% of the people who use Split right now are debit card holders. They either don't own credit cards or they don't want to own credit cards. And I think the reason being is that I think the overwhelming reason that when we've surveyed the customers, why don't you have a credit card? It's like, well, I'm sort of like a shopaholic and I know I can't control myself if I have a credit card. So Split is sort of like the solution where you can't overspend. We literally only allow every customer to have one installment at a time. So you can't really overspend with Split as you would with a credit card.
Well, that's a solution for you guys who love spending just as much as me. Our next question is, I'm not very sure if I understand this question, but this person wrote, how long does Split pay into my account?
Okay, so this is talking about settlement. So I said we settle the full purchase amount with you upfront. For most of our partners, if you're typically a lower volume every month, we will settle with you every week. So once a week, we will pay you the full purchase amount. So you don't have to worry about cash flow or collecting the installments every month. As soon as the customer pays us the first installment, within a week, you get the full money in your bank account. Okay.
Another question just came in. Now, this one is, does Split retain any of the debit card or personal information?
We do not store anyone's payment details. We use a third-party payments acquirer to do that because we don't want to store any of our customers' payment information so that we can remain PCI compliant. How it works is when someone uses a debit card to pay us, it's sort of like your Spotify or your Netflix subscription. Every month, the installment gets deducted automatically. But we do that through our payment processor. We don't actually store any of the payment details. So there's no effort needed for your customers to pay us back. Everything is automated.
All right, super cool. We don't have any more questions for now, but if there are, I will pop back up. So feel free to continue.
Cool. Okay, so I told you the catch. You have to pay a transaction fee. So I've heard of some pay later companies charging up to about 12%. Before. So it really varies depending on the company you're working with, what category you are, what's your volume, how risky the consumers are. But it's usually less than what you would offer for an unsustainable discount. Okay, so for my last slide before I sort of shamelessly plug in Split, how do you measure your success when you're working with pay later company. So the main two measures you want to look at is your conversion and your average order value. Some of you might be thinking, well, obviously, if you order installments, your average order value of the people who use pay later companies will be way higher. So what you should do is you measure it on an aggregate across your entire website. So before you integrated Split or any other pay later company, measure your conversion and your average order value. After you integrate Split over a couple of months, measure it again. Did you see an uplift in the metrics? Chances are you would, if you did it correctly and we marketed the pay later service correctly. That's the best way you can measure it. Typically, for across all our partners, we see these sort of metrics go up just because of the nature of installments, right? They're so easy to use. So I see your face again, Lauren, which means I think you have a question from the audience.
Yes, I do. All right, so our next question is, can we only send our products out only after we receive payment from you?
Well, you can. I mean, it's your company. You can send it out anytime you want. But I would recommend that you send it out as soon as the order is fulfilled. What typically I think pay later companies can do is, as you start, because you're kind of not sure about this pay later company, can I trust them to pay me back? For the first couple of weeks, we can arrange a shorter payment schedule so that you know that we actually are legit. We're not trying to defraud your company or something. And then as we start building up that relationship, then we can stick to our regular payment cycles. Because at the end of the day, we need to trust each other. You're trusting us to offer your customers installments. We're trusting you to deliver that service to the customers. It's a mutual relationship.
All right, I'm out. See you in a bit.
Okay, see you in a few seconds. And if all of you don't mind, I'm going to shamelessly plug in what Split looks like. And I will show you the customer journey, and I will show you a bit more about what we do with our partners. At any point, please stop me and ask me some questions. And I'm going to show you what Split looks like, but there are other pay later companies you can work with, especially in Singapore. But I can't speak on their behalf. What I can do is I can speak about Split, and then you can ask me anything about Split. If you want to ask me about anything about pay later companies in general, I will be happy to answer those questions. Cool? So this is what Split looks like. No, it's not an orange background with white text. I'll show you what it looks like. So this is one of our partners in Malaysia. I'm featuring them because I really like their products. They do jewelry. They're called the Straits Finery. So this is one of their products, one of their rings, the 14K gold Matahari ring, which typically costs 390 ringgit. But if you look below that price right there, there is a split price widget to reduce the customer drop off. So if a customer comes in and sees the price, oh, it's 390 ringgit, they're thinking, I want to close that tab, I can't afford that. But before they close the tab, they can see the 3 interest-free payments of 130 ringgit with Split. So that sort of reduces the drop off. The next thing is that when the customer adds all their products to the cart, we also have the cart widget to make sure that the customer is less likely to abandon their cart. Remember, we talked about the cart abandonment earlier. 7 out of 10 people abandon their cart. This really reduces that abandonment, and our partners really love this feature. And the call to action, finally at the payment page, they get to choose Split as a payment method. So Split 3 installments, 0% interest, no credit card needed. I don't think it could be any clearer than that for the customer. So it's a very clear journey as they go through your entire website, and then boom, you put Split in front of them for them to make the payment. What you need to do is follow the instructions to pay their first installment. This is what Split's website looks like. They can choose 3 monthly installments or half now, half later, which means you pay 50% now and 15% in 30 days. They just give us a few basic details, and typically if they're coming from your e-commerce site, we can pre-fill all this so it reduces the time they need and the drop-off as well. They enter their debit or credit card details. Most customers use their debit cards over here. Verify their phone number. So what happens is we use their phone number to remind them of their upcoming payments and contact them in case they have any issues with their payment. And literally that's it. That's all they need to do. And if we approve the purchase, which happens within 5 seconds, the purchase is complete. When you press confirm on your e-commerce platform, it says order has been paid for, please fulfill it. And you can fulfill it, and within a week, we will pay you the full purchase amount. It's exactly how it works. It's really, really simple. Yes, I see your face again.
And I'm back. Okay, we've got another question. This one is, will your company be able to generate reports and provide details to us about the customers who use your service?
Oh, of course. Every partner that works with us gets access to what we call the Split dashboard, where you can see all your past Split transactions. You can see when they are making the purchases, what is your volume over a certain time period. You can also use the dashboard to refund your customers. There is no sort of like weird interface. It's literally just you look at every order, press refund if the refund needs to be done. Is it a partial or full refund? And we will process it within 1 working day. It's all automated with our dashboard.
Okay, our next one is from Sam. Now, Sam is wondering, do customers still need debit cards or credit cards?
Most of our customers, so you need either a debit card or a credit card from a valid bank. Typically, if you have a bank account in Singapore, you would have a debit card. We are working and exploring other payment methods, but right now, I think most of our customers are pretty happy paying with their debit cards.
Okay. So the rest of you are still watching. If you have any more questions for Dylan regarding Split or regarding these kind of payment gateways, go ahead and leave them in the Q&A or yeah, definitely in the Q&A. Don't put it in the comments because it's very hard to track them there. And yeah, go nuts, go right ahead and ask as many questions as you like, because once again, this is basically free consultation. And I think it's pretty interesting because I think with all the retrenchment that's going on, and all of the uncertainty and confusion, I think that this gives us a lot of options, a lot more options when it comes to shopping. So, okay, so Sam just asked another question, and his question is, how many installments can you go?
Right now, we do up to 3 interest-free installments, because I think typically for most e-commerce stores, your average order value is usually within $100 to $1,000. That's where 3 installments is like the sweet spot.
All right, cool. Oh, wow, the question's coming in now. This one is from Gerald. Now, Gerald would like to know, will customers still earn miles on their Split installments via credit card?
Yes, that's a great thing that Split offers to our customers versus you using your bank installments. If you use Split to pay, you still are entitled to your full miles and your points and whatever credit card benefits that you have with your bank. Yeah, that's the great thing.
Okay, that's all the questions we have for now. You may continue with the shameless plugging. I'm actually enjoying this. So
thank you. I will continue my shameless plugin over here. Right now, so to see where else customers can Split, we have nearly 50 partners right now who are using Split across Singapore and Malaysia. You can go to our website, paywithsplit.co/where-to-shop. You can check it out over there, a bunch of our partners over there. And if you partner with Split and we accept you into our partners list, your picture, description, and logo will be there on our site as well. So I think the great thing about working with a pay later company, at least ours, I'm sure the other pay later companies do this as well, is that Split becomes a customer acquisition tool. So we're not just processing your payments, we also process your payments and help you get customers. So this is sort of an example of what we've been running with our partners in Malaysia and Singapore. They use Split as a pool for customers to come and use their service. If you look on the right, it says stay home, shop now, pay later, and wash your hands. So that was a few months ago when that was still the key message. In the middle is one of Malaysia's largest IT retailers that sells a lot of Apple products. And they started using Split a couple of months ago, and now allows their customers to pay in up to 3 interest-free installments with their debit card. And that was an amazing, attention that they received. And a lot of customers started to use Split from that partner. The first one is sort of like a chair, a gaming chair, a really, really cool gaming chair in Singapore, Royale Ergonomics. Some of you might be sitting in one of their chairs right now. So they use this as a way to make the purchase of a chair much more affordable for their customers. So we will work with you to build out these marketing campaigns. Our marketing team does that to make sure that we're not just doing payments, we're also helping you get customers. Okay, I think, is this my last slide? Oh yeah, so this is a couple of weeks ago. If you're wondering how we were able to fund all of this, a couple of weeks ago we just announced that 500 Startups, one of the global VCs, invested in us. To prove that that's actually me, if you look at the top left, that picture, it's the exact same background as you see right behind here. But yeah, so they are our strong supporting investor who are helping us build out our installment platform in Singapore and Malaysia. So I think that's the last thing. Oh yeah, so this is for you. Screenshot this page. You have my email, you have our website, and you can shoot me an email, ask me a question, any kind of question. It doesn't have to be about pay later. Ask me about why, why am I wearing a black t-shirt? Why was Game of Thrones season 8 so bad? Anything, I will answer you.
Well, since you mentioned those 2 questions and we don't have any questions yet, why don't you go ahead and answer? Why are you wearing a black t-shirt and why was Game of Thrones so bad?
Okay, so I'm wearing black t-shirt because it's one of my favorite colors. It's very nice. I think I've always worn black since I was young. So that was a really, it stuck with me since I was a teenager. And Game of Thrones, I think season 8 was so bad because they built so many storylines and arcs across season 1 to 7. It was just so tough to connect all of it onto season 8 into one satisfying conclusion. I know at the end of season 7, I was so excited when I saw the ice wall breaking down. Can't wait for season 8. Now I just don't really think about Game of Thrones anymore. So.
Okay, we've got 3 questions that just came in. This one is from Denise. Now, Denise would like to know, what are the risks with this pay later model? What keeps you awake at night?
What keeps me awake at night? Why Game of Thrones season 8 was so bad? That really keeps me awake at night. I think we are bringing a brand new way for people to pay, Malaysians and Singaporeans, and it's kind of unknown how the market would react to it. And I think from our team's perspective, we want to make sure we build a really great product for our businesses who are using Split. At the same time, for the customers that use us, we want to give them a great experience. Of course, we want to approve as many customers as possible. We want to approve as many businesses as possible who want to use us, but we just can't do that all the time. So our goal is really to make sure that we can serve as many people and businesses as possible. And that really keeps me up because I know that not everyone is getting approved to use Split right now.
Okay. Now this one is, give me a second. Okay. What are your charges like?
Right. It really depends on your industry you're working in, your volume, sort of the risk that our team assesses. What I can say, the ceiling that we charge to our partners is 8%. So that would be the maximum that anyone would have to pay per transaction.
All right, cool. Now this one is from Shirley. Now Shirley would like to know, what is the transaction fee like?
I think I just answered that about 5 seconds ago, but I will say that again to repeat for everyone. So we do, most a partner ever pay us is 8%. Typically, there are some exceptions, but I would say reasonably there's a ceiling of 8%. But you're probably thinking, oh, that's much higher than what the banks are charging me or what my payment gateway is charging me. But I think for Split, our key difference is that we never charge your consumers any interest or late fees or financing charges. You know how you open your credit card statement sometimes and you see that interest charge, financing fees and late fees because you missed maybe $1 in your credit card bill. So we don't do that. Whenever a customer uses us, it's completely free of charge. If you miss your payment, our customer service team reaches out to you, schedules a different payment date for you, and you never have to pay an extra cent. Because we know sometimes consumers have some financial hardship or financial difficulty, and we're not going to punish them for that. So really where we make our money as a business is we charge a slightly higher transaction fee to make up for never having to charge your consumers, to give them a great experience.
I think that's very nice. Now this one's from Gerald. Now Gerald would like to know, how do you measure the risk of customers potentially defaulting on their Split installments?
That's secret, I can't tell you. Okay. So in a nutshell, this is the key secret sauce that every pay later company has, where we have different decision making. At the end of the day, we want to approve as many good customers as possible and reject as many bad customers as possible. We don't actually pull out your credit scores from the credit bureaus as of right now. What we do is we assess a lot of different things as you come and use our website. Your past purchase behavior, for example, with the store that you're buying from, your behavior on our website. We also have access to some third-party sources of data that tells us and gives us an idea about who you are and whether your identity has been linked to potentially a risky transaction anywhere in the world before. But also at the end of the day, the more people that use us, there are thousands of people that use us all the time, we get a better idea of who is a good customer and who is a bad customer, the more people use us. So counterintuitively, sometimes when we get bad customers, well, you think it's a bad thing, but when we kind of know who we should not be approving in the future. So there's no one answer or one secret sauce. It's a combination of multiple factors that gives us the best decision making. So sorry if that doesn't answer the question very well, but that's sort of like our thoughts about it.
All right, and that's understandable as well. We don't have any more questions for now, but guys, keep them coming because we still have a little bit more time. This one is actually from a friend of mine. Absolutely nothing related to Split at all, but she would like to know, is Dylan single?
Who is she or he? Okay. Maybe you have my screenshot here. You can email me and ask me. I told you can ask me anything.
Wait, how is that question? How's the answer to that question? Maybe it's either a yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, so Dylan is single and available. We've got another question from Denise. Now, Denise would like to know, what are you drinking? This is kind of straying a little bit from split already.
Vodka. Isn't that what all the speakers are drinking? No, I'm having water. And I'm drinking this from a Star Wars BB-8 cup. It's water.
Boy. You guys are hilarious. Okay. This one is from Gerald. So, do you get loan sharks to chase down defaulters?
Yeah, of course. So we splash red paint on people's houses, smash their things, smash their flower pots, kidnap their children sometimes. And that usually works, we get our money back. But on the times where it doesn't work, no, we actually don't. What we do is we have a really effective customer service team. As soon as someone misses a payment, we would run, a customer service team would immediately contact the customer. Literally, as soon as we get the notification that we receive for every customer service team immediately WhatsApps the customer, arranges a separate payment schedule. Usually the response we get is that, I haven't got my salary yet. Can you charge me in maybe 5 days? And then our customer service team arranges that, freezes their installment and charges them in 5 days without any extra charges. There will be some bad apples who choose not to, pay us back for whatever reason. And there are ways within the confines of the law that we can try and recover that money legally. But I'm glad to say of the customers that we've had so far, we have not had to resort to doing that yet. So I guess we can just stick to the loan shark and beating people up and kidnapping their children.
Yeah, I'm a person who laughs really easily, and you guys are making it very hard for me to do my job. Okay. Our next question is, does the payment get clawed back from the seller if the customer defaults on the payment?
No, see, that's the great thing. As soon as you receive that money, you keep it. Once you get that money, the money is yours forever. If the customer doesn't pay us back, that's a loss on our side. That's why we charge you a relatively higher transaction fee. Also, if it's a fraudulent transaction, like, if someone used someone else's card to make the transaction for whatever reason, and that customer files for a chargeback. Chargeback means that, they're saying, I didn't make this transaction, give me my money back. That loss is also on us. You get your money up front, we're never going to take it back from you.
Okay, let's do one more. Now, this one is pretty general. Where and how did you come up with the idea of Split?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Where and how did you come up with the idea of Split?
So Split actually started, so I told you I'm relatively new to the e-commerce industry. I started it 2 years ago, but we started in the travel industry because I used to work in the travel industry. And Split started out as a company that let airlines, travel agents, and hotels offer installment payments to their customers. But it was only really a few months ago where we realized, okay, the travel industry, probably not somewhere that we're gonna succeed anytime soon. So we opened up our system. We ripped out everything that had to do with airlines and hotels and travel agents, and we connected it to your everyday e-commerce sites. So the idea sort of came about a couple of years ago for the travel industry, but only the past few months we were sort of driven and forced to open up into additional consumer spaces. And then I think it's worked really well. Businesses and consumers love what we're doing. So I think it was the right choice. And despite the pandemic, which is really unfortunate for a lot of people, they find our service very useful, especially businesses who don't have to do unsustainable discounting, which is the title of my talk.
I guess we'll come full circle. Now, Daryl would just like to finish off with a compliment. And Daryl says, thanks for the answers. Very enjoyable session. Now, Dylan, I've got one final question for you before we wrap things up. So,
okay.
What is your secret to staying young? Because you have not aged a single day since I saw you 4 years ago.
Oh, so I use a lot of SK2 every day.
Seriously?
No, I'm just kidding. I don't use SK2. That's too expensive. I'm an entrepreneur. I can't afford SK2. I think I exercise a lot. I don't know. I think that really helps for me. I think maybe I have baby face genes from my parents, perhaps. And I don't know. I don't know, that's probably it. I guess my genes and exercising and telling a lot of silly jokes and laughing. So I think that keeps me young.
I think when you make people happy, that makes you happy in return. And I think this whole session, I've just been laughing a whole lot behind camera. I'm not sure if you guys can have, obviously you guys don't see it because like my webcam is on, but I had a really enjoyable time with you. And I like on behalf of Exabytes, I'd like to thank you once again for joining us. So if guys, if you enjoyed his session, let's give him a virtual round of applause. And if you have any more questions, you know where to contact him. His contact details are on screen right now. Dylan, thank you so much. Give me a call sometime. We should hang out. Bye.
Okay. See ya. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Exabytes. Grow your business online.